Hi, eyes up. There are no words to describe the feeling of walking into your favorite bakery and being caressed by the aroma of fresh baked goods. You know, that feeling that makes you feel happy, calm, and relaxed. But do you want to know what else is about to be happy, calm, and relaxed? Come here. A little closer. You. Now let's make the best fluffy cinnamon rolls that will change your outlook on life. You may be wondering why I'm holding this orange. Well, that's just to signify that we will be making the alternative orange cream cheese frosting in addition to the regular standard frosting. You know, the one that Pillsbury makes? Comment below if you remember eating these growing up and if this brings back a nostalgia for you. Oh, and subscribe too because I'm doing this for you. Yeah, you watching this right now. This week's video is full of one giant mistake, but as always, I want to bring you along with me because I'm prone to them as well. So hopefully you'll get quite the laugh out of it. I always want to make you feel like you're right here with me making this together, so start out by grabbing your milk from the fridge. I measured out 3 cups or 710 milliliters of whole milk and pour that into a large wide saucepan. Then let that warm up on your stovetop on low-medium heat or until the temperature reaches about 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.8 degrees Celsius. While that's warming up, pull out your scale to measure your yeast. I chose active dry yeast, but you can use instant yeast too. You'll need 6.5 teaspoons or 15 grams. Once your milk has reached the desired temperature, mine was roughly 103 degrees Fahrenheit here, pour your milk in a bowl and mix in your yeast to let it activate for 10 minutes. You don't need to add any sugar since your milk has naturally occurring sugar, but it won't hurt to add a pinch or two. Actually, I'm not sure why I poured it in the bowl, but you get the point. For this recipe, I wanted to try something I hadn't seen across YouTube or anywhere else for that matter. I had some cake flour available and I decided to use 3.5 cups or 467 grams. The reason I chose cake flour is because I had leftovers that I wanted to get rid of, but also it can obviously lead to a very soft and cake-like structure in the end product. And this is what we care about, right? I also used 2.5 cups or 353 grams of bread flour. The purpose of this was to yield a product that was not too cake-like in structure, but a hybrid of sorts. The high gluten in bread flour would help one achieve a chewy and well-structured dough, which I believe will be perfect for cinnamon rolls. Now, you want your cinnamon rolls to not only rise, but to be sweet, right? I chose to use about 1 cup or 200 grams of sugar as my sweetener. I want you all to know that one of my biggest flaws when baking is that I commonly forget to let my butter sit out to reach room temperature. Not this time. It's 2023 and we're not making any more dumb mistakes. Divide your 8 tablespoons or 113 grams of butter into 8 small cubes like I am here. This just helps make it easier for it to combine with the other ingredients during the mix-in. For the mixing process, you'll prefer to use a stand mixer with a dough hook attachment or a hand mixer, but a big bowl and mixing spoon works too. I decided to grab my KitchenAid, and let me tell you, this thing has made my life so much easier in the kitchen. Prep your mixing bowl by adding in your flour and your yeast milk mixture. Then proceed to add in your 1 cup of sugar. Now let all of that mix on low speed for 2 minutes, then bump up the speed to medium. Oh, and don't forget to add in your 2 egg yolks. Now let that mix for a few minutes and I think our dough should be ready now. It's a little wet still, so I'm going to add in another cup of bread flour, and another, one more, and another. At this point, I realized in good faith that I couldn't post a cinnamon roll recipe that uses over 9 cups of flour because who the has 9 cups of flour just laying around? And more importantly, my dough still looked like this after 9 cups. Clearly, I added too much milk. I thought about the sunk cost fallacy and threw out the whole thing. Now let's redo this, but quicker for those of you watching at home. Add in 4 cups or 544 grams of bread flour, 3/4 of a cup or 175 milliliters of whole milk, 1 stick of butter, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Oh, and 2 egg yolks too. Also, make sure you add 2 teaspoons of yeast to your milk, just like earlier because our dough has to rise, right? Now, let all this mix and it should form a nice blob of dough. Don't be afraid to pause and push down some flour while mixing. You'll know your dough is ready once it's not aggressively sticking to your hands as before. This is the product that we're going for right here. Lightly flour your work surface and begin to fold your dough into itself, kind of like an envelope like I am here. Once you've done that a couple of times, form it into a nice ball-shaped structure, oil up a bowl and let it rest covered for about 2 to 3 hours or until doubled in size. For our filling, we will need 225 grams or 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 stick of butter. Let all of that mix together using your flat beater attachment. Once done, pour it in a bowl and set aside. For our frosting, we're doing a standard cream cheese frosting and the nostalgic orange frosting. For the standard, measure 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 2 teaspoons of rum extract, but you can use vanilla if you prefer, 8 ounces or 225 grams of cream cheese, and the zest of a whole lemon. Let all that mix on low settings for just a couple of minutes and your product should turn out like this. Congrats, you now made the world's second most delicious homemade frosting. And now for the #1 version. You're going to repeat the exact same ingredients and measurements, except this time we're going to omit the vanilla extract and instead use the zest of an entire orange. I also want you to squeeze out 2 teaspoons of fresh orange juice into your bowl. Give it a taste test, but be sure not to fall from how delicious it is. Now that our dough is ready, lightly flour your work surface and rolling pin, and roll out your dough into a long rectangular shape just as I am here. The dimensions you're aiming for are roughly 20 inches by 8 inches, with a thickness of about ½ an inch. Place your filling on top and spread it as evenly as you can from edge to edge. Begin rolling your dough from the long way tightly. Remember, these are cinnamon rolls and we want them to be nice and tight. Once rolled out, grab your serrated knife and make notches to evenly divide your roll. Give each roll a dividing cut and place them in a well-buttered pan. I don't have a square pan, just this cake pan, but it works the same. I just won't have the nice cube shape. Melt a little butter and spread it over your rolls before covering with aluminum foil and placing it in the fridge overnight to proof. Now, you could bake these immediately, but by letting them proof overnight in the fridge, they will certainly bake better and more evenly and have a better rise. It's the next morning, and there's sunlight again in my kitchen. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius, and once ready, toss in your cinnamon rolls. Wait a second. Just so you know, this is what mine look like from the fridge. They barely got any larger, but that's okay. Place them in the oven for 40 to 50 minutes. Also, make sure the foil is a little loose to allow for them to expand. I overbaked mine for a few minutes because I wanted a deep golden crust, but if you want soft bites all the way through, follow the 40 to 50 minute rule. Now place them on a rack to cool. But this next part is important. After 3 minutes of being on the rack, grab your frosting and add it to your rolls. You'll want to do it this way because it's hot enough to perfectly melt your frosting and fill all the crevices for the perfect cinnamon rolls, but it's also not too hot to abruptly melt your frosting. I had 4 rolls, so I split my frosting by making 2 orange frosting and 2 lemon frosting cinnamon rolls. Now let those cool for 5 minutes before serving to yourself and your loved ones. And now, well, you know what it is. Let's all enjoy this footage of fresh, hot, fluffy cinnamon rolls.
That is it. That is how I make my cinnamon rolls the way I like them. I must say, biting into that orange frosting gave me nostalgia so bad that I felt like I was wearing my light up Buzz Lightyear shoes again. These cinnamon rolls make the perfect breakfast, snack, or dessert, and I hope you enjoy them, or at least enjoy this video. If you learned something new or like the idea of orange frosting, like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment down below. I'll see you next time.